So, this is our first topic in the Biology 1, and it's topic A on fitness and health. So, what we need to make sure we're very clear on is what we mean by fitness and how that is different to health. So, fitness is the ability to do physical activities. We can split it into different categories. So, there's stamina, which is your ability to keep doing things for a very long time, flexibility, which is basically how bendable you are, agility, which is how fast you can move, particularly when it comes to changing direction very quickly. Speed is basically how fast you can go in a straight line, so how fast you can do one thing. Strength is just a measure of how much you can lift, really, how strong your muscles are. And cardiovascular efficiency is a measure of how efficient your heart and lungs are, so how long it takes you to get out of breath and how quickly you get your breath back. So those are the different ways that we can measure fitness. Health, on the other hand, simply means being free from disease, so meaning that you're not ill. So it's possible to be fit but unhealthy, and it's also possible to be healthy but unfit. They are different things. So you just need to make sure that you're very clear about which one you are talking about. So one of the ways that we can measure a person's fitness or health as well is to measure their blood pressure. Now, blood pressure is measured in the unit millimeters of mercury, so mmHg. This is the unit. And when we measure a person's blood pressure, we measure two things. We measure the systolic pressure and the diastolic pressure. So the systolic pressure will be the bigger number, and it's the one that will always be on top when you look at a blood pressure monitor. And that is the pressure in the arteries when the heart is contracting. So it's the pressure when the blood is being squeezed out of the heart. Then there's the diastolic pressure, which is the pressure in the arteries when the heart is relaxed, so basically between beats. And that will be the smaller number, and it's always the number on the bottom if you ever get your blood pressure taken. So if you get taken, you could end up with something like 120/80. So 120 would be the systolic pressure, 80 would be the diastolic pressure. And we look at both these numbers to assess a person's health and fitness. So, high blood pressure is obviously bad for you, which I'm sure we're all aware of. It can be caused by smoking, too much salt in your diet, being overweight, having too much stress in your life, drinking too much alcohol, or eating too many saturated fats. So not all fats are bad for you, it's just the saturated ones that are particularly bad for you and can cause high blood pressure. So those of you doing higher, we need to know that if your blood pressure is over 140/90, whilst you are resting, you are more at risk of heart attacks, stroke, and kidney damage. Now, high blood pressure is not in itself, a definite sign that you're going to get ill, but if you have high blood pressure, you are more likely to be developing later in life issues such as heart attacks, strokes, and kidney damage. So it's an indicator of risk, basically. Now, low blood pressure is also a problem. Low blood pressure can cause dizziness, fainting, and poor circulation. So you can often have cold fingers as a sign of having low blood pressure, and organ failure. Now, low blood pressure is a problem because it often means that your blood is not carrying enough oxygen to all your organs. So, that's the most important job of our blood. It carries the oxygen to our cells so we can make energy. And the reason you get dizzy or faint is because you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, which is what causes you to then pass out. Excuse me. So, smoking can also affect your blood pressure, and it has two ways that it causes its effects. So the first is that when you smoke, you're introducing carbon monoxide into your body. Now, carbon monoxide can replace the oxygen in your blood. So your blood's job is to carry oxygen around your body, but if you inhale carbon monoxide, the blood takes the carbon monoxide in preference to oxygen. And once it's taken the carbon monoxide, it can never let go of it until that particular blood cell dies and is replaced by another one. So if your blood is carrying around a lot of carbon monoxide, in order to get the right amount of oxygen to the rest of your body, your heart has to beat harder and faster, and that will increase your blood pressure. Now, those of you doing the higher, you need to know that the part of the blood that binds with either oxygen or carbon monoxide is called hemoglobin. Now, heme means iron, so it's the bit of your body that you need iron for. So that's hemoglobin, the important part of your red blood cells. Now, the other way that smoking affects your blood pressure is that cigarettes contain nicotine, and nicotine is a stimulant. And what that does is it makes your heart beat faster. Now, if your heart is beating faster for long periods of time, that can also cause a strain on it, which pushes your blood pressure up. So both of these ways are how smoking affects your blood pressure. We'll discuss a little later in one of the other units how smoking can affect other parts of your health, but this is just the particular focus on blood pressure. So the other way that we can upset our blood pressure is by our diet. So our diet just being what we eat. Now, saturated fats are the evil here, and saturated fats cause a buildup of cholesterol in your arteries. So that's basically just kind of, you can imagine that you've got your artery, and then on the inside lining of it, you've got this layer of cholesterol. And the more cholesterol there is, the narrower your arteries become, which means that it's harder for your blood to be pushed through them, so your heart has to beat harder. Now, these cholesterols can form something that we call plaques. Now, plaques are just essentially chunks of fat that can come off from the sides of your artery and then cause a clot somewhere else. So they basically cause the blood to stop flowing and it blocks up your arteries. And if that happens, it's called a thrombosis. So it's the saturated fats that are particularly bad for doing this, and they slow down or make it difficult for your blood to get through your arteries, which builds up your blood pressure. And if they get too much of them, they can form a plaque which can come off and cause a blood clot or a thrombosis. So again, thrombosis is the term that we'd be looking for from higher paper students. For the foundation, it's enough to tell me about the plaques causing a blood clot. Okay, so that is our first topic done. So that's fitness and health. So key things to make sure you've got clear in your head is that you understand the difference between what we mean by fitness and what we mean by health.